Okay, welcome everybody at Bitcoin 2022 in Amsterdam. And I'm again day 2 with Stef.
Good morning, Eddie.
Good morning, Stef.
Good morning, John.
And,
good morning, guys.
We have John. Yeah, good morning.
Jonī Carvalho.
Indeed, Jonī Carvalho. And you're the CEO of Synonym and working on hyperbitcoinization of the future. So that's very interesting. We prepared a couple of questions.
Yes.
It's another setting, so let's just start with
Yes, as I already told you guys that in the pre-talk, normally we have 10 yes or no questions, but because it's the conference, we keep it a bit compact.
Indeed.
So we only prepared 3 for you, but you still have 3 questions which you may only answer by yes or no, John. So
We're starting with that.
we're starting with that.
Okay.
So that's the most difficult part for you, I guess. So and I'm going to start with the first one. Well, it's not like a question, but it's a quote, and I would say, let's quote it: "Fuck big banks, fuck big state, and fuck big tech."
Yes.
Will you use the Bitcoin Lightning NFC card at the conference?
No.
Lightning will be not enough to get hyper-Bitcoinization.
Please repeat that.
Lightning will not be enough to get hyper-Bitcoinization.
Correct, yes.
Let's start off with the questions. At Synonym, you believe that the original Bitcoin version, everyone's having self-ownership and control of their own digital assets, and modern Bitcoin tools like the Lightning Network allow businesses and platforms to require less custody of assets and information. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I mean, I think that there's people that look at like Bitcoin adoption in different ways, and some people will include custodial solutions as part of Bitcoin adoption.
Yeah.
I consider that to be like regressive. So, you have the idea here is that we made this so people don't have to be beholden to a central entity. Well, we made this. Satoshi made this, and that means holding your own keys at the very least. More importantly, ideally running your own node as well to be able to enforce these rules. And so what we're just trying to say with that quote there is that we believe that we should at least one company trying to make sure that we're creating an entire holistic user experience that has that as a requirement, saying, okay, the people have to hold their own assets. And we extend it even further to holding their own data as well, at least owning their own data. And so we're against custodial Bitcoin. We're against walled gardens. We're open to and promoting interoperability and trying to make sure people can be portable and go to whatever service they want with their data and with their money.
Their interoperability will make it seamless and more suitable for people that find it difficult, perhaps.
Well, I'll be honest and say interoperability is a bit of a red herring because just because you tell somebody how to do something doesn't mean that it's easy for them to do it.
No, that's right.
And so interoperability, you'll hear that a lot in the next few years from all the different like Web3, Web5, decentralized web, like all these projects that are coming out. They're all going to claim interoperability, but all they mean is that it's open source. And they say this is a standard, but it's not standard until everybody uses it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's hard to have
says nothing about
interoperability.
intuitive applications or intuitive design. That's a whole other...
Yeah, it's tricky. Like, it's partly a business development problem. It's partly just building the thing that actually captivates everybody to take the time to support it. It's not easy.
And how many nodes do you run yourself personally then, John?
I only run on-chain nodes, and I run old ones. I do not run current versions.
Oh, okay, so you don't run a Lightning node even?
No.
Not interested in running one?
I think most people aren't really spending enough on Lightning to really worry about whether or not they're using a custodian at the moment.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that's going to scale, and I don't think that's a wise way to move forward with millions of users. I think they need that capability. But at the moment, if you're only keeping like $100 on Lightning or something, like why go through all of the motions to have your own control over it? When like I don't know, like I use Blue Wallet for my custodial balance. I know the developer. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if there's a problem, I can just DM him.
Yeah.
Like, it's not really that much of a risk at the moment.
No.
But that won't always be true, right? Like, their company might get purchased. They might run out of money. Who knows what will happen? And so I think that you need to have an option to have a good user experience for holding your own Lightning node. But I think the solution isn't necessarily going to be everybody having a Lightning node on a server somewhere, because most people don't want to own and operate and be responsible for a server. I think you have to figure out how to get this stuff in a phone.
Yeah.
And, like, have it be like a lightweight node.
Yeah.
So
like Breeze, for example.
Right. Well, Breeze is using LND Mobile. We were going to use that for our upcoming wallet, but we just didn't really like the user experience, so we implemented LDK mobile node, and we're much happier with that. And I think that you'll see a wave of new apps that are adopting that as well.
Cool. And you're also a speaker at the conference. Did you speak yesterday? Also, have you also had to speak today, or?
Yeah, yesterday I spoke about, I was on a panel for Bitcoin maximalism, and just answering questions about that with Mir and Pete Rizzo. And today we're doing a panel called Dollars Over Bitcoin, which I believe the topic is going to be just concepts of, stable coins or stable channels, or all these different ways people are talking about expressing, fiat through blockchain or technologies like that.
Interesting. Where is it held?
They're both on the SAT stage.
Cool.
The SAT stage, okay.
It's like a cage fight, right? It's really looking awesome, right? That the venue.
Yeah, I mean, I wish the SAT stage was a little bigger, and the main stage was a little smaller, because
but we had the exact same. We did our Rings of Fire workshop yesterday, and people were standing in the hallway, and there wasn't enough room, but it was with a lot of the workshop that were held there. So I think for next year, maybe the big venue has to decrease a bit, and they will shift some places.
I guess I can't change the stadium size.
No,
of course.
But maybe divide it into two separate stadiums, and then.
Being this the first in Europe, in the Netherlands, well, we try to evaluate and.
No, it's a really great atmosphere here. I like the whole how it feels like a festival or something, because you have multiple buildings and you have all the vendors in between. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
Well, a Synonym /tag is a lightweight, scalable, and decentralized web of trust protocol, and which brings new utility and self-sovereign experience to Bitcoin and Lightning Network. What new utilities will this possibly bring to the Lightning Network?
Sure. So at the end of the month, we're going to be making a few announcements, and part of those announcements will be formally releasing the first version of /tags along with a mobile app that supports it.
Yep.
And so the idea with /tags is just to kind of show how there actually are cool decentralized web features or DApp-like features or identity-related features to using public-private key pairs. All this stuff you hear about with Web3, that you hear about with Web5, that you hear about with DIDs and SSIs. I don't know if you follow any of this stuff, but
TBD was working Web 5.
Yeah, and so the idea with some of this is just how do you fix the web? That's the broad goal here, and that's the broad goal with /tags as well. But the idea here is that we are combining the user experience with Bitcoin, but we're not actually using Bitcoin for anything to do with those problems, because you don't need to. Yeah. And so we still generate the keys from derived from the Bitcoin seed for the Bitcoin wallet. So you can have this ability to have your seeds represent your whole digital life. And then you can now use these keys to do things like log into websites where the website not only uses the key as an auth, but it is a handshake between both. It uses a noise protocol basically to do a cross authentication. So you abstract away domain names, and they're just not really even relevant. And so the website represents itself as a key as well. And this allows you to both have networked drives on a DHT, where this can be pulled from anywhere and served by anyone, because the drives are only writable by the key that owns them. Mm-hmm. And so the counterparty, like say a website, can have a drive about the user that the user can subscribe to and get updates about their account from within any app anywhere. and the user can have their own drive representing themselves that they can share with whomever they want to be able to represent, say, their own like public profile or something like this.
Yeah.
So the idea here is to show that like you can be a portable, interoperable entity in the web, and your profile is yours, and your followers are yours, and your contacts, their contact information is defined by them, and everything is dynamic, and you can subscribe to all these things as feeds. And so we're using a hypercore, which is the DHT system that makes kind of all this work on the storage level. And we're using slash tags as kind of a layer on top of that to associate metadata with keys. And we're going to show like various use cases for what's possible if you use these as primitives within apps or websites and things like this. And so at the end of the month, we'll have a whole website that explains all of this with demos and a playground and just showing different user experiences of how to implement this stuff to essentially create like true dApps. And so you can actually have dApps that are made out of different parts of things everywhere in the web, and you can kind of assemble a user experience based off of different feeds.
Yeah.
Cool.
Interesting. Yeah.
And it looks like you guys are really reinventing the internet, but how long will it take to completely reinvent the internet with Synonym?
I mean, it'll take years more, honestly. I'm not going to pretend that this is not a huge project, and this is really only like a portion of the whole vision that we're trying to implement.
And on the way to, it will also change maybe.
Yeah, like you mentioned Web of Trust. We haven't actually even started working on that aspect yet. We're still building the primitives of all the stuff you have to build before you can do that. Yeah, so this is like the first real app where you actually would put this technology in your hands.
Yeah.
And then hopefully other people will start building things with it. But even if they don't, we have plans of what we would consider like the major like platforms that need to be built with it that matter to get this whole like what we call atomic economy going, which is just like a hyper-Bitcoinized economy that is also fuck big banks, fuck big tech, fuck big state.
I referenced the first question. What is the use case for SlashPay?
All right, SlashPay is really cool, and this is an even bigger endeavor as far as like business development or adoption goes for other tech, other projects and other platforms. But the idea here is this: like, for years we keep making new payment formats just within Bitcoin alone. And now if you start thinking about, you have Bitcoin formats, you have like legacy addresses, native segue addresses, Lightning invoices. Now we're going to have new Lightning invoice formats like Bolt 12. We're going to have PTLC channels. We're going to have tokens on Lightning. We're going to have other token formats on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Like, how the hell do you create a user experience that in an app that's like sensitive to all of these options, and somehow not having to teach the user all of the technology as well? Like the user experience, the user doesn't care about the rails you're using or the limitations of the rails you're using. What they care about is, I want to pay this person this much money.
Just have to work.
Yeah, and so what SlashPay does is it abstracts the payment process to just a slash tag. And so when you want to pay someone, you are referencing their key. And so all you know is their pub key as far as for slash tags. It's not a Bitcoin pub key. It's just a pub key as a abstract concept. And what it does is it goes to their corresponding network drive that they're serving on the Hypercore DHT. And it within there, the user is able to have a list of all of their endpoints for the payment methods they support. And so what happens is when you pay someone on SlashPay, in the background, there's a payment negotiation that checks which methods each of you support, and it matches the highest preference version, like the highest preference payment method that you both support.
And it does it.
And it does it without the user seeing it.
Yeah.
And so there's just basically a communication that happens in the background. And say, for example, like right now, our implementation is only going to support on-chain and Lightning because that's all our wallet supports.
Yeah.
But when we say add a token format, it'll also support that. And you could add technically support for anything. It could support PayPal, credit cards, whatever. And so the user just types in, say, a dollar amount, and then in the background, it just matches the payment methods by preference, by order of preference. And so if I want to pay you with Lightning, it will actually, if you're online, it will go to your Lightning node and it'll say, hey, make me an invoice of this amount, and then it'll send it back, and then the wallet will show the invoice for that amount.
That makes it super easy, right?
Yeah. And if you're offline, you'll have two options. It will either give you an on-chain address that you've generated for that user, or it will give you a zero-sat invoice, Lightning invoice, that you have to input the amount to go into. Yeah. And so every time the on-chain address or the Lightning the zero-sat invoice gets used, when you come back online, with your wallet, it will refresh them and put in new ones. And so it allows you to have a little bit of privacy and a little bit of separation for your accounting.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And Blocktank LSP is a set of software tools that businesses, apps, web platforms, or Bitcoiners can use to monetize Lightning Network connections and automatically manage channels liquidity. How does it work actually?
So Blocktank is something that we built because we had to build it for ourselves for the user experience we want. But we decided to open source the whole thing, which is not all that common with people with server, software. And so basically, we decided we needed this to have a good user experience in our wallet and to make it easy for people to kind of connect to the Lightning Network without having to learn about it, and to be able to, manage their liquidity, manage their routing problems. So because as long as they can hold their own keys and have a kind of light node in the wallet, then they don't really need to be the ones worrying about routing and worrying about, channel liquidity and this kind of thing. And so we want our wallet to kind of be smart and say, like, okay, when the person is trying to pay something they can't pay, that because they don't, say, have a Lightning channel, that it will automatically say, in order to pay this, you need to pay this fee, to connect, to be able to do instant payments. And so we have these kind of user experiences in the wallet that allow the wallet to be sensitive to your behavior and basically tell you what it will cost to do what you're trying to do if you can't currently do it at the moment. Cool. And so Blocktank LSP is a stack of software that allows anyone to operate an LSP, to kind of complement a wallet platform or a web platform. But we also offer it as a business service. So if you are, say, an exchange and you either don't support Lightning or only want to support Lightning minimally, and because learning Lightning, you have to have somebody basically on staff dedicated to running the Lightning node, at minimum at least one person. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of exchanges, especially ones that are more preoccupied with shitcoins, that this is a tough sell for them because they're not going to make money from it necessarily, and so you have to figure out a way to make it easy for them. And so we offer an array of services that range from we have a pre-implemented widget, which is a UI that they can skin and they can just put it in any platform to be able to sell channels. This is a more direct approach. Or we have APIs that they can use to create their own user experience. Or we actually have a new service called Blocktank Instant, which allows an exchange to just literally let us handle everything. So when the user wants to deposit Lightning, they actually pay us, and then we owe the exchange the balance. Cool. And when the user wants to withdraw Lightning, we actually pay the invoice for the exchange, and the exchange owes us. And so they can do Lightning without adding Lightning at all if they really want to.
Really intuitive. And what I like most, because we talk to a lot of developers within the Lightning space, and I know also hear your story now that you find a problem, you solve it for yourself, and then there's an idea to bring it to the masses, right? And we also talk to...
I don't know if they'll care or if they'll need it, but since we already made it, we might as well try.
Indeed, making it very interesting because it's very easy to for them to do it. So it's good for adoption. And you've indicated before that the Lightning Network is currently mainly commercially interesting and not open source enough. Why is that?
The quote might be missing some context as far as not open source enough, because I wouldn't say that.
No.
So the context that I would put that in, or rephrase that, would be, I believe that Lightning is commercial technology, and you have to keep this framing when you're trying to create things with it and create user experiences for it. And what that means is essentially, what Lightning solves is specifically problems that affect businesses, merchants, and consumers. Yeah. It's not something that's just for techies or something that's for storing value or self-sovereignty in the sense that removing censorability. It has different trade-offs in those regards. And so because it uses IP addresses, it could invite censorship and it could invite blacklisting, etc. Yeah. Because it is requiring, exchanging Bitcoin across routing, it could eventually be affected by regulation and things like this. So there are going to be trade-offs when Lightning hits scale. And so we have to always remember that this is for merchants and consumers, and that's what the focus should be, because what Lightning provides is instant and high-frequency payments. Instant only matters at the point of sale, and high frequency only matters for people who do business a lot. So it's not something that's just for like paying your friends.
No.
You know, it has to be something that is strictly for a commercial purpose. And I think that focus is important. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of miscellaneous projects in Lightning don't really factor that in to their design choices and even the research choices, to where you have like, I don't know, some of the Lightning implementation teams do have like their own wallet, like say Phoenix and Eclair. But I think they all should. Like right now, Blockstream, they don't have Lightning in Green Wallet, and Lightning Labs doesn't have a wallet. Now that's good for me because now I can make a wallet and try to implement it. But if the culture was different and the culture was focused on merchants and consumers, I think you'd see different things coming out of those camps. You know, and I think that means they would want to listen more to people who are building things for those types of users. Yep. And that's just basically what I'm getting at. They should be more open-minded about listening.
What can be done to turn this tide then?
I mean, in the end, if I'm right, you won't be able to stop the tide. It just will take as long as it needs. Yeah. Because if it really is the incentives and that require this to be a commercial technology, eventually the interest and the investment and stuff that isn't related to that will fail and fall away. But I don't know how to turn the tide other than like me preaching about it and complaining about it on Twitter, or me proving it true by having that focus and building our products that way, and maybe showing more success than other people have had in the past.
Yeah, like filling the gap.
Yeah.
Then,
like if our wallet, you know, like very quickly gets to 100,000 users or something, people would pay attention. They'll say, oh, well, let's do it the way they did it because it worked a little bit better, you know? Because right now that's about the cap. Like the most popular Lightning wallets, which are all custodial, are roughly at 100,000 downloads or something. And so that is probably the most successful part of Lightning is custodial Lightning wallets. But just generally, the network is still pretty small, 5,000 Bitcoin. I don't know, like something like 20,000 nodes or something, and maybe I would guess
visual, because also a lot of behind Tor, so we can't really tell the real exact amount. But
something about 18,000 and indeed 5,000 Bitcoin in the network. There are also people that say, well, the amount, the capacity is not important. It can work with only the amount that's currently in, but yeah, well.
Then the price has to increase a lot.
Yeah, indeed.
Well, look at it this way: you can still compare it to like the size of the market. Yeah, it is not important in the same way as like I don't know, DeFi or something, but it's still important in the sense that it means this is how much money is actually in this commerce network that's moving back and forth. You don't need to know the transaction, volume to know its importance, and you can't measure it in Lightning.
No, that's right.
But the capacity, I think, actually is a decent measure, because if it were at 100,000 Bitcoins, they wouldn't be saying that.
No. But the nice thing is, we see, because in our podcast, the first part of our podcast, we always check the state of the Lightning Network, the statistics, and we see still a big increase in liquidity.
Increase in liquidity and a decrease in nodes, but perhaps it's not a lot of data to really measure it, but it looks like it, that the liquidity is rising.
I wouldn't worry too much about that. That would indicate centralization of nodes. I wouldn't worry too much about that. I actually think that's healthy, because the Lightning Network, if it's going to be a commercial network, it needs to have arteries of economic flows.
Of course.
And so you need some efficiency in how the structure of the network actually develops, so you can have an actual organism. You need the organs and the arteries, and the capillaries can be at the end. Right now, it's like the culture is trying to connect all the capillaries, and that's not really efficient. It's like we don't need 20 pleb nets. We need actual economic flows, because like I said, while these are great examples for enthusiasts and for people to learn Lightning, it's not actually economically efficient for you to make a channel with each of your friends.
Yeah.
Hey, to wrap up the show, John, we know you're a big philosopher also. What does self-sovereignty mean to you?
What does what mean to me?
Self-sovereignty. What does self-sovereignty mean?
Self-sovereignty. It just means being able to make your decisions for yourself and not have to be a slave to somebody else's power. Your ability to be mobile and portable, as your digital self, the kind of stuff we talked about with slash tags, the kind of stuff that Bitcoin does with your money, holding your own keys. I'd like to think that, in the future, that can be very simply defined by being you always hold your keys. And I think that covers it.
Yeah. And it also summarizes our conversation. So thanks for being at the show.
Thanks, Jan.
Thanks for joining, and really, have fun today. And we hope you enjoyed Amsterdam. We're a bit proud as Dutchies that the conference.
It's like my 5th time in Amsterdam. I love Amsterdam.
Cool,
awesome.
nice. I hope to have you back on the show someday.
Yeah,
sure.
Would be nice.
Anytime.
Thanks again.
Thank you.